My name's Alex Forryan. I'm a drummer and an educator. I've been an educator for the last 15 years, teaching primarily drums, but I've also taught in further education colleges and for companies delivering RSL diplomas. The biggest question is always asked me when I've got sort of young trainee teachers coming in, so how do I get my students? Make the decision to become a teacher, but make it positively, make it in a way that you're going to do this properly, you're going to learn how to teach, and then you're going to find students will come to you. There's quite a lot of word of mouth. There's a lot of friends of friends, people who have seen you play. I know for myself that I came to teaching quite late. I always was under the wrong impression that those who can do, those who can't teach. I was very wrong in that instance. I think certainly these days, those who can do, until such time that they decide they want to teach and pass on their knowledge. So I think you've got two options as a sort of professional educator within music. You can set up your own business, and that could be just as a freelance practice. So you could literally be going to people and giving them lessons, or you could end up working for a music centre, an established music centre. There's pros and cons for both. Obviously, if you're working freelance, you've got the flexibility of working when you want and how you want. When you work for a music centre or an organisation that is providing lessons for other people, they've taken a lot of the hard work out of it for you. They're going to be taking care of the administration, they're going to be taking care of the invoicing and the booking, the equipment, room space if you're having to hire that. So that can be some challenges that you won't need to deal with if you're working for somebody else. If you are working for yourself, then there's obviously things that you're going to have to consider, whether you're going to somebody's house or whether you're going to be setting yourself up in a facility, in a property where you can teach from there. Again, that'll depend on the equipment. Obviously, guitarists, bass players can take their equipment to their students. Drummers, keyboard players may struggle with that if your student doesn't have a kit or doesn't have a kit that's of the correct standard. So there's pros and cons for both. In my own experience, I've always taught for music centres and music services, and it's been a very sort of successful relationship that I've had with all the music centres and facilities that I've worked for. So I guess the biggest question that I'm always asked is group lessons versus one-to-one lessons. And it's an argument that goes on. Every music teacher has their own views on this. My own personal experience, I've done both. I've taught one-to-one and do teach one-to-one lessons, and I've also taught group lessons up to 6 in a class playing drums. Both work effectively, both situations will work. It has to be right for the learner ultimately. There's definitely pros for teaching one-to-one in a one-to-one situation. Certainly as you go up the grades, if you're teaching a graded syllabus, so maybe 6, 7 and 8 might need more kind of one-to-one coaching rather than teaching. So group lessons are great for younger students that want to explore music and then come and have some fun and learn. Often, when I'm teaching young instrumental teachers how to teach, I often say that if your learners are having fun, they'll be learning. If they're not having fun, you've immediately created a barrier to learning. If they're not enjoying their lessons, they're not going to learn. The easiest way to create, certainly with beginning lessons, is a group dynamic that everyone's having fun, everyone's having fun learning, and they're all learning together. There's pros and cons for both group and one-to-one lessons. Certainly as you go up the grades, as I've said, as an instrumental teacher, you move from being teacher to coach. You're coaching your student to play better and to maybe bring some of their own creativity to the parts they're playing. That dynamic works really well as a one-to-one coach, because then you become coach and mentor as your students go on and get to more advanced levels. So if we look at how you would price lessons for a one-to-one situation versus a group lesson, a one-to-one lesson is an intense, half an hour's lesson. That student is having your undivided attention for that period of time. So from a freelance educator's point of view, you can only sell certain units of time, so you've got to decide what you would charge for that, and that's on a one-to-one basis. In a group lesson, your time is being divided by however many people you've got in that class. So you're looking at that situation being a price per student. You are going to charge more for a one-to-one lesson per student than you are for a group lesson. But teaching is a numbers game. You are having to teach, if you're going to teach and you're going to do it as a profession, you've got to look at maximising your time versus your earning capacity, your capability. And maybe group lessons are the way to solve that riddle, really.